Today we are going to talk about climate change deniers. Hi, my name is Wendy, and if you're new here, which you probably are because I am, welcome. In this channel, I would like to talk a lot about nature, a lot about sustainability practices, of the human experience. I like to talk about society and community, climate change, and strategies for us to deal with that. I feel community is very important, and honestly, I watch a lot of YouTube videos and I see these amazing creators sharing their knowledge, sharing their expertise and their life with people, and I would like to be part of that. I'm a lot on Twitter, and this is where I kind of see my research and connect with people in this world. I spent the better part of the last 8 years creating a timeline that would just feed me exactly what I wanted to learn. All the experts and people that talked about things that I care about at a high level, I just had that feeding into me. Until, of course, recently when Elorb decided to purchase Twitter and now has basically burned it to the ground. Kind of embarrassing. But it changed the entire structure of it, so. But anyway, now there's a whole bunch more bots, which was great because as soon as I start typing anything about climate change, I get a whole bunch of content for this video. I have narrowed it down to two things. One, there's a fundamental lack of knowledge of how the natural world works, how water happens, how food is planted on the ground. There's like a gap between reality and how much people know. And number two, there is an active campaign of misinformation and gaslighting by the fossil fuel industry, who are the main creators of this whole climate crisis. They have actually had campaigns to convince the public that things were fine when they are definitely not. I'm sorry to break this to you. I'm sorry to break this to me. Basically, the fossil fuel industry knew that this was going to happen. They hired their scientists, and the scientists predicted with scary accuracy what would happen. And they saw this, and instead of thinking, you know what we should do? We should lead the sustainability charge. We have all this technology. We have all these amazing people doing incredible work with the technology we were able to achieve using this energy system from the 1800s. Okay, it is very ancient and dirty and inefficient. The only reason why we haven't walked into a future of sustainability and regeneration and circularity is because of this active campaign from the fossil fuel industry to continue making hordes and hordes of money. Smile is completely jealous. The pile of gold that these people have is just, you cannot use it all. And on top of that, it is our resources that is on the hands of these people that clearly have no intention of being good humans on this world. They know what they're doing it on purpose, and they're making sure to create barriers so that we never clue in, so that we can never change, we can never achieve our actual potential, which is grand, by the way. Humans are incredible beings. We're too busy with our lives created by the system that makes just money, 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 money to the 1%. So I would love to talk about this with everybody to make sure that all of these really complex connections are understood, because they're very important at this step of the economic crisis we're going into, because the climate crisis is affecting the economy, it's affecting nature, which is where everything comes from. All the materials, all the food, we forgot about this, and we really need to get back on that track so that we can do something about that and then move to the future that we can achieve. We can achieve. Now that that's out of the way, thank you so much. I understand that it's intense, but honestly, we are entering an intense time, and I would like to be realistic with you because the positives are also very intense. We can reach that too. So please join me on this journey. I am completely open to feedback as well. Please leave on the comments. I would love to have a conversation. I would very much welcome your input. Anytime it snows, global warming isn't real because it's snowing, because it's cold. Essentially, global warming is the increase of emissions in the atmosphere that changes the amount of heat that gets trapped in here. But what that actually means, on top of it getting hotter and hotter and hotter, which it has been, the past 12, 13 consecutive hottest months in history in the 120,000 years that have passed has been the last 12 months. So there's definitely heating happening. But on top of that, this imbalance of emissions actually destroys the stability of the climate. So when you push this warming, this barrier of where things are stable, you start to get the snaps. You start getting hotter and drier summers, for example, colder, harsher winters, and everything else gets a little bit unstable. Like you see more climate disasters, you see more floods because it's pushing the whole climate, you know? So you will still see cold, you will see a lot of cold. The planet is an incredibly complex being. The currents that move the waters and the airs and all of the life that happens on this planet, they are very susceptible to things like extreme heating and lots of emissions. Unfortunately, this is humanity's history of emissions. It's not looking good. There is such urgency in actually doing something about it. I understand that it may be scary, and I understand that it may feel like a lot, but everything you do matters. Every interaction you have with people, how you approach them, if you approach them with kindness, your world will start shifting. We are largely unconscious, honestly. In my life, mostly I spent unconscious. Just being and existing and having a lot of fun and doing things that I regret, you know, the usual person experience. And I finally discovered that I needed to be aware. Oh, I should probably pay attention to things, be more mindful, be aware and conscious of my experience. Things starting to really change, and I want that for everybody. And I'm not the only one, because I know that other people on YouTube have inspired me to do this because they have achieved this. But I digress. 2. Carbon is plant food, so it'll increase food production. The world is actually becoming greener as we speak. Okay, there are so many things wrong with this one. Yes, carbon is plant food. Apart from food, we also need other things to survive, like water and oxygen. And what I like to equate this to is being in a room where every square inch is full of burgers, just like squishing into you, and you're asphyxiating, and also you're super thirsty because it hasn't rained for 2 months or something. Again, misconception of how plants actually work, and this inability. I have a little bird. Here he is, the beeper. And second, about carbon being plant food, the immense amount of carbon that we're putting into the atmosphere is causing this shift in temperature that makes everything hotter and drier, and so plants actually die. Even if there was all this food, it interferes with the water flow of the planet. Again, it's an interconnected system where many different parts work together to keep the stability of the system. It's not just water, air separate, you know, they are completely connected. So yeah, sure, carbon is plant food, but you're not understanding the complex dynamics that go into that. It's just basic ignorance. And I'd like to reiterate, there is no problem not knowing things, but when you're arrogant about things that you think you know, you stop your own growth. So I understand that it's probably embarrassing to be wrong, but isn't it more embarrassing to hold on to something that's so wrong that it hurts you, that it hurts your community, that it stands in the way of achieving something greater? Isn't that so much more embarrassing? 3. It won't happen until 2100. You are exaggerating. We still have lots of time. First of all, that's a thought-terminating cliche that basically just means the person is saying something to stop the conversation right there. Some thought-terminating cliches, which I think were very interesting, and once I started noticing them happening in conversation, it was just one of those like light bulb moments, right? So it'll be fine, nature provides, it's just a natural cycle, weather has always changed, you know, people saying, oh, everything fluctuates, it's always been like this. And then too expensive to address, which it just feels like a weird money, you know, just thinking about the money, like what is money? You know, people forget that money is just supposed to be a tool of the trade. Too expensive to address something that will kill us, something that will eliminate life on this planet as we know it. What is your value system? What is the value system of someone that thinks like that? You know, we have to stop and think about these things. However, I think the biggest flaw with this argument for me lies in the lack of empathy, because you don't care that the planet is going to be hell on earth because you won't be here.
Okay, fine. You'll be dead, sure, but what about everyone else? What about nature, wildlife, children, the people that you love, perhaps, your family? Anything that you like about living on this miraculous planet? Do these things count? Wouldn't you want to avoid a horrible fate for these things, or at least try to build a better world for whatever comes after you, you know? Personally, I think this is just another aspect of the thought terminating cliche that I mentioned before. People just say whatever they need to say in order to not have to think about the consequences, what's being implied, which I understand, but also it's very selfish. It's lazy, honestly. And it's dumb. It's dumb. It belongs at the top of Mount Stupid, which brings me to my other point.
The Dunning-Kruger effect. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect. It is basically explaining that once you know very little, ignorance is bliss. And then there is a moment where you know just enough to be super arrogant about it. Usually a lot of people just stay here in the Mount Stupid, from what I noticed from the climate change denying conversations that I have. But sometimes people come down and they realize, oh my goodness, I actually don't know anything, and they despair. What I want to do in this channel is help people not stay in the valley of despair like I did for a decent amount of time in my life. So yeah, basically these are the ones that I decided to talk about. There are many more, and I'm going to keep this short because this video is already pretty long, I think, and the important part of it is the discussion that happens when we try to look into it, right? I know that it's a lot of information. Unfortunately, the explanation of all of these is complex and interconnected and systemic, like the climate crisis, like nature, like life on this planet. In conclusion, it's okay to have things that you don't know about these really complex interconnected systems that I have been studying for a very long time. But we have to have some sort of growth mindset, right? We have to remember that not knowing things is not embarrassing. It is part of life. Not knowing things is almost a blessing because it means you just learned something new. I think we have to change this mindset of being embarrassed of not knowing things, of wanting to be right all the time, because it comes with that insecurity of not knowing. And part of this is, again, that gaslighting that the fossil fuel industry and the profit-driven people have been putting in our heads. It is a literal neuroscience how they do it and they apply. It does affect us in a specific way because our brain is a machine. It is an organ. Our mind, which is like our soul or whatever you want to call it, like where our personality lies, that's coming through our body from our brain. So I believe understanding these things, even though it doesn't seem like it's super connected, but understanding these ways to not be like this, to not be resistant to change, to not be scared of things that you don't understand, because the path to understanding is the journey. And I would love for everyone to come with me if this kind of content interests you. I know it's a little bit out there, but I just have a passion for humanity, I have a passion for nature, and I really would like to share that. So yeah, if you enjoy this video, if you kind of like the topics that I talk about, if you have any comments, Rain has some comments, he's going to give me feedback after this. But yeah, leave a comment, subscribe, let me know what you think, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you so much for being here.